Hello. And welcome to the Doctor Who review. That was really smarmy. That was like Bob Monkhouse smarmy. Hi, welcome to the show. Today you can win these prizes. Let's try it less smarmy. Greetings. I'm the Adipose, but you can call me Addy. No, that's still smarmy. No, I need to remove all kind of semblance of cheese or like seduction out of the intro. So we'll just go for a, all right, how you doing? No, I can't pull that off either. Maybe I can just say, hello. That's too posh. Although it kind of suits me though. Hello, how you doing? Welcome to the show. You know, it does kind of fit, but then with the stubble and the shirt that's not really done up properly, it doesn't really kind of work. So maybe we'll go for just a very colloquial, it's nice to see you here again. Today we're going to be reviewing Face the Rainbow. I keep saying rainbow. Face the Raven. So if obviously you haven't seen that episode, you might want to move off to the side because we're going to be talking about the big and dramatic events that is happening. Now, I didn't do a review last week. As you can hear, my voice is still a little bit kind of croaky, and I wasn't really up for kind of doing a massive 20-minute long kind of speech about the episode. And also, I think I was just kind of saying this before, but I felt last week's episode was a bit weird. You know, sometimes you're just not sure how you feel about something. You know, sometimes like you get some food and you're like, oh, that's really, really nice. And then sometimes you eat some food and you go, oh, that's horrible. And then sometimes you get some food, you're kind of eating it and you're like, I don't know if I like that. Like, I'm not spitting it out, but I'm not swallowing it. I don't know how I feel. And I must admit, last week's episode, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. And the eye gunk monsters, eye gunk. No. The episode itself wasn't bad. It wasn't good, in my view. You know, it was always obviously opinionated. It wasn't bad, wasn't good. It was just eye gunk monsters. So there is no last week's episode. So don't search around on the YouTube. There isn't here. So today we will just talk about the Raven, Facing the Raven one final time. Which, of course, and I hope you have left now if you haven't seen the episode, was Clara's swan song or Raven song, as you might say, as she appears to have gone. So obviously the most of this review is going to be kind of talking about, you know, her kind of exit from the show. It was sad. It was sad, and it was well done. And it was different. And I think those are the kind of the three things you're kind of looking for in a companion going. You know, a bit of remorse, a bit of sadness. You're looking for it to be something well acted, well scripted, well kind of put together, memorable, and original. You know, you don't want to see, you know, stuck in another dimension, sent back into time, you know, got pregnant, and we've never had that. I've got to leave the TARDIS because I'm pregnant with a Dalek. That would be cool. But it was different. It was different. It was nice. And the other thing that was good about it was it fitted her character. And I don't have a lot of nice things to say about Rory and Amy. Those of you that, you know, have kind of watched my reviews for a while will know I'm not a fan of Amy, but their exit fitted their character. Amy eventually left the Doctor because she wanted to be with Rory more than the Doctor, and so it kind of brought out Amy's departure brought out the strongest positive elements of Amy, which was ultimately her love for Rory, and she chose Rory, and together they disappeared into the past. And this brought out some of Clara's strongest attributes as well. I mean, there was the recklessness, there was the kind of the fearlessness, there was the, do you really know what you're doing? But there was also the caring and the adventureness and the bravery and the fact that she was thinking of others before she went, which was nicely kind of put together as well. I mean, and it's rare to have a companion die, really rare. I mean, the famous one is Adric, is that how you pronounce it? Adric, you know, the kind of child genius with the kind of the fifth Doctor is like the kind of famous one because it's so rare. Most of the time companions get, you know, stuck somewhere, or they choose to leave, or the Doctor kind of drops them off and kind of walks off, or I mean, a lot of them kind of fall in love, you know. Oh, hello. Oh, goodbye, Doctor. Thank you for showing me the universe, but he's blonde. Bye. You know, a lot of them kind of, you know, disappear that kind of route. But it's rare for them to die, to actually be properly dead. They tease it all the time. I mean, let's all just, you know, let's do this together, you know, collectively pick up that little bit of pinch of salt and dangle it above the chips because, you know, Moffat does like to kill off characters. Whoops, only joking. And I mean, Rory, it became an ongoing joke. Amy was turned into a ganger for an entire series. I mean, even Clara's been killed several times. I mean, let's not remember this or forget this. Clara exists in multiple incarnations throughout history, because remember, the Doctor has actually met her 3 times. Slightly different names each time, Oswin, Clara, blah, 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 blah. But in theory, although, this version is gone, there are many other versions of her flopping around history. So, let's not get too upset before, or too kind of moody, because I'm sure, in theory, all the Doctor has to do is find another version of her somewhere and just kind of go like, oh, there she is, or stalkily kind of watch her, kind of be like, I remember, that kind of thing. But let's assume that she's gone. It felt final, and I think it should be. I think peril needs to be real, and for peril to be real, sometimes peril has to pay off. You know what I mean? I don't like the word peril. It sounds too much like beryl, but you see what I'm getting at. So I've complained in previous reviews that the danger didn't feel real. It didn't really feel like any of them were actually in jeopardy. Yada yada. I mean, I've complained about that a few times, and so for people actually ever to find episodes of Doctor Who scary, or for me to be like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Sometimes people have got to die, whether it's like a companion or whether it's a someone you've just kind of met in that episode. And I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why some of the modern superhero series work so well, or even something like Game of Thrones. And I don't watch Game of Thrones, but I'm aware of it. I mean, one of the reasons why Game of Thrones works so well is because characters die. One of the reasons why X-Men in the comic series work so well is because characters die, they evolve, they change. Peril is real. There's that word again. Peril is real. And it's good for a show like Doctor Who, which ultimately is based around kind of horror and scariness and aliens and adventures. It's really important to never get to that point where you kind of think, oh, they're just immune. They're immortal. What's the point? They're going to get out of this. And sometimes Doctor Who very much does get to that point, and you're kind of like, you lose the feeling of being able to absorb yourself in it. And that's why I think it's really important that a companion dies. And I think it's really important that a companion dies permanently. I mean, and Toyga Cat's just kind of pointed up here, X-Men never stay dead. And this is the thing. Clara kind of needs to stay dead for this kind of to work. It doesn't mean that he can't do a Rose, pops earlier in the time stream and has like a remorseful last look at her. It doesn't mean, she can't have left him like a little voicemail somewhere. Things like that. But it does mean, for me, that this needs to be, I think, Confuzzle said it really well, that the struggle needs to be real, which is good. Now, the death itself was, I was thinking about this, and one of the reasons I kind of do, the show comes out on Saturdays and then I kind of do my review show on Sundays, is to kind of give me some time to think things through. Because when you think about things and then you kind of go, oh my goodness, I think that. And then later you think about it again and you kind of go, oh, actually that. And then later you think it again and you go, actually no, I've completely changed my mind about something. And I always think it's nice for me able to be able to do the Doctor Who reviews a little bit kind of later on, because I've had a chance to kind of think through the episode several times and kind of come to further conclusions. Because my first thought about the whole Raven thing, and I'm doing this review on Monday, which means basically no one's going to watch this other than you lovely people on Twitch. It probably means in terms of YouTube views, I'm going to get kind of like my mum, my dog, and me watching this video. But I think it makes for a better review, because my first thought with this Raven hitting her was, well, what the heck is the Raven? Why did no one shoot the Raven? Why did no one put like a big brick wall around her? Like practical levels. From a practical side, just stop the Raven getting to her. Offer the Raven a Twix or some chocolate or something. So why did the Doctor not point the Sonic at the Raven? Why? How often have you ever seen the Doctor stand back and go, nothing I can do, really. It's an alien curse. You're definitely going to die. I mean, he says it, but then he always does something about it. And so I had this, my initial reaction to it was actually one of, Not the acting, not the scripting, not the speech, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But my actual reaction to the kind of Raven itself was, what it was. It seemed kind of out of character to have this kind of like, I can stop the Daleks and I can stop the Cybermen and I can stop this big alien plague and I can stop this and I can jumpstart the second Big Bang in my Pandorica, but. The Raven, well, nothing I can do, ladies and gentlemen, nothing I can do. And so my first thought was that. And then I thought about it again. And I thought, well, actually, I think the Raven in a way is kind of metaphorical. And I mean, I'm going to get a little bit deep here. But all the way through this series has been this theme that Clara is living on borrowed time and is... she's the Mayfly. Do you remember that lovely bit of dialogue between the Doctor and Lady Me from a few episodes ago, where they were kind of talking about humans as like these temporary creatures that exist so briefly in their bigger lifespans, and so it was. Clara is living with this doom kind of hanging over, or to put it another way, a death that she cannot escape. And obviously, in the ideal world for Clara, it would be a death she couldn't escape in 50 or 60 years' time. But what they kind of did, looking at it kind of metaphorically, is that they put this idea of a death that you cannot escape literally kind of into the show as kind of the enemy. And so, yes, but the logical side of my brain still goes, so, the Raven was a manifestation of what, and the Doctor couldn't stop it because, and the Doctor hasn't come across this because, and this has been allowed to exist because, the logical side of my brain still goes, the Raven bit doesn't really make sense. But the more literary side of my brain, I don't mean literal, I mean literary, the books, the poetry, that kind of thing, kind of goes, this was an allegory for death, if that's the right word. If my stepmother's watching, I apologize for using the word allegory incorrectly. This was an allegory for death that Clara couldn't get away from. And in fact, many ways, her character had been kind of running towards. And it hasn't even been subtle. And not that things have to be subtle, but, the hints throughout the series that she's been getting more and more reckless, that she's been getting braver and braver. I mean, they literally had her hanging out of the TARDIS earlier in the episode and laughing in the face of death. And even the Doctor, bless him, was kind of like, that's really happening. That's weird. But it gives a narrative to her character, all the way through, that season when she was with Matt. Sorry, she was boring. She started as a computer genius and then just kind of turned into a generic companion, very generic. But then with the season with Capaldi, they took this wonderful character arc of her becoming like the Doctor, picking up his skill set, learning to be more and more, cold sometimes, able to make the big decisions, even taking the whole of planet Earth responsibility for the whole of planet Earth at one point in that Moon episode, if you remember. And then this series, and then of course the death of Danny Pink suddenly changes her outlook, and she's still wants to kind of be a soldier like a Doctor, and perhaps even wants to be the Doctor, but she kind of takes on this element of kind of fatalism, and she doesn't care about herself quite so much. She's lost her kind of personal reason for kind of existing, or she's certainly lost her own reason for wanting to continue her own life, and instead kind of lives through the Doctor and lives through kind of the adventures. I mean, she loves the adventures. You even saw at the beginning of this episode, they kind of burst in from some adventure they'd have, laughing and joking about the peril, there's that word again, that they'd all kind of been through together. And, I think it really, really worked as a character. Worked is the wrong phrase, I guess. I really liked that character arc that she went through. Once you got Matt Smith out of the way and they actually kind of thought, what should we do with Clara? She went through a really nice development and then finally demise as a character, which I think was really nice. Which brings us to the last few moments between the Doctor and Clara, which were good. And obviously, how sad they were depends on how much you liked kind of Clara as the assistant, how much you'll miss her, how much you kind of felt it was her time to go, yada yada yada. So I'm not gonna try and persuade you that something was sadder than it was or less sad than it was. But I think what it really showed was their relationship. And in my view, so this is opinion, not fact, the Doctor stuff gets very murky when he starts to get kind of romantically involved with his companions. It was done very well with Tennant and Rose, but then the Amy Doctor relationship was very strange, but the Clara Doctor one was a little odd in that when he was Matt Smith, it was flirtatious. You know, they did kind of get naked together on a few occasions. They did, kind of look at each other, side glance at each other, smile a little bit too much more at each other. And then, there was kind of a redressing of their relationship when he became a Capaldi. And there was little lines like kind of Capaldi saying, I'm not your boyfriend, Clara. And things like that. And what their last speech, I think, showed is that she is his carer. He is a wonderfully complex character he is the Doctor I'm talking about here. He's a genius. He is brave, but he is ridiculously insecure and he is ridiculously single-minded sometimes. And he needs her, and he needs her overtly and he needs her, practically, like as in he knows that he needs her. I had a lovely comment on one of my earlier reviews, and I can't remember the person's name. I'm really sorry, but you'll know who you are. I was kind of talking about how their relationship is a bit weird and a bit too needy, and someone put a comment on my video saying that there's quite a lot of autistic traits in the current Doctor, and I'm not an expert on autism. I come across it through being a teacher. But I wouldn't pretend to kind of understand the ins and outs. But the person on my YouTube video was kind of making the point that the Doctor kind of displays these quite obsessive traits, and that doesn't have to be kind of romantic, and it doesn't have to be weird, but it's just that the way he kind of deals with things is just a little bit kind of different to perhaps how someone without that kind of condition might act to it. And that kind of perhaps then shows also the kind of intensity. Because, sometimes an autistic person can get very, very, very obsessed with like one thing. And it's kind of like their version of a comfort blanket, or it's like, it's a little bit kind of connected to OCD, but sometimes autistic people can be very much like, I need this thing to be kind of comfortable. For me, it's obviously the PC and things like that. But for Capaldi's Doctor, it was Clara. She was his safety blanket, and he needed her. She's the thing that he keeps going back to just check that everything's okay, and to just check that he's doing it right. Tell me, am I a good man? That line has gone through all of their relationship together. He needs her to check what he's doing because he knows that she will tell it to him straight, and that kind of shows their relationship. And I thought it was really good, nice that her last words to him weren't it wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't something on the lines of, you've been my best friend. It wasn't you've shown me the universe and the galaxy. It was advice. Her last words to him were, you need to not do this, and you need to do this, and remember to take your meds 3 times a day. And it was like the final prescription for him. And I think it was nice because I think it framed their relationship really well, and made it very distinct from a romantic relationship or whatever it was that the Doctor and kind of Donna had together, and the rejection that Martha felt. This was their relationship. She's his carer. He needs her. And now she's gone, and now he is alone. And some of the people are kind of saying this in the chat right now. That you just for a minute you saw the scary side of the Doctor. The threats of the Doctor, and that's really nice because you don't often get to see the screw you, man, I'm a Time Lord, I will take you down side of the Doctor. But the times when you do, it's scary. People sometimes say it to me as a teacher. I'm quite a laid back kind of teacher, but just occasionally I get, a little bit annoyed and I kind of bare the teeth and get a bit kind of aggressive. And I'm aware that sometimes people kind of say to me, and I quite like this, they kind of go, well, we're not used to kind of seeing it from you, and it's quite effective. And I think that the Doctor is the same thing. If you kind of think, when was Tennant scary? There was that wonderful bit where he took the family of the blood and he locked them away. There was that bit when he was on the Titanic and he was kind of like, I'm a 900-year-old Time Lord, blah, 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 blah. There was the waters of Mars where he dramatically decided that he was going to break the rules of time. And do you know what I mean? It's memorable when the Doctor actually lets leash with what he can and could do. And he let loose just a little bit here, towards Lady Me, and gave a proper kind of like, she was protecting you. I can do this. I could summon this. I could destroy you. I can do this. And I think it was good to see it. It was an appropriate moment for the Doctor to get very, 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 very angry. And it was an appropriate moment for those kind of lines to be used sparingly. Let's be a bit more negative. That's basically kind of Clara, and I think she, that's my kind of review of it. I think it was well done. I think it suited the character. It was well thought out. It very much kind of carried on with the kind of threads of her kind of character. I still don't like Ishilda. I really don't. I liked the street idea. I really did like the street idea. I thought the idea of kind of like a refugee street for aliens hidden in London, Cardiff, was very cool. Tiny Rebel Brewery was there in London. And I really liked the street. But it looked, lots of people were saying this online, it looked terrible. It looked like a crappy little Diagon Alley. And I know everything looks a little bit like Diagon Alley, but it really didn't have to look like that. It didn't. It was weird. There's something with the thing was wrong, and I still don't like Ishilda's character. I like the idea of someone that's lived for ages, but when I did that review of that episode a few weeks ago, it doesn't quite work. And so is she a good guy, or is she a bad guy, or is she in between? And what's her motivation? She seems to exist. Her plotline seems to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure I'll see stuff up here. Her plotline seems to be protecting people from the Doctor. But the Doctor spends his entire time saving lives, saving humanity, protecting the world, and then she's there to mop up the mess he leaves behind. And it's like, well, the mess he leaves behind is a lot of people that have survived that wouldn't otherwise. She seems to be angry and annoyed with him, and obviously in her situation, she's had a crappy life because of what he's done. But he actually gave her a life in the first place because otherwise she'd be dead. And her emotions just seem to be kind of all over the place. And then she sets I'm trying not to think about it too much because obviously the point of this episode was Clara leaving, but the more you think about the plot line here, it doesn't really seem to work. She sets a trap for the Doctor by pretending there was a murder, by putting a tattoo on the back of someone that she knows that he's met's neck. But it's all a bit random. He might not have come. He might not have come in time. He might not have solved the mystery. He did, but, there's a lot of assumptions there that he would kind of turn up and he would sort this and so on. And also the trap itself. So let me get this right. So the goal was to get a little bracelet around the Doctor and to get the TARDIS key. Is that what I'm kind of detecting from this? And, just ask to see him. Hey, Doctor, how you doing? Shake hands. Oh, great, good. Whoops. Oh, got a bracelet on you. Whoop, there's a big fist. Bam. Taking the TARDIS key. Job's done. A lot easier. And also, why? She's protecting the world from him by selling him out to a load of aliens. No one knows. In theory, if she's existed all through time and she knows all about the Doctor, then no one knows more than her just how much he's saved the world, yeah? She must know that. She must know the huge amount of good that the character has done. And yet she's just bandaging him off to whatever the thing is next week. It just doesn't make any sense. And, am I supposed to be cool, she's protecting the world from the Doctor, so she's a good guy? Or am I supposed to be no, she sold out the Doctor, so she's a bad guy? But she's a bad guy that I understand because she's lived so long and her kids died. Do you know what I mean? It's just she's just, and I still don't like the acting on it. She still comes across as like a spoiled teenage girl going, and the whole like alien thing with the two faces. I mean, Doctor Who makeup, I think, is really good these days. I mean, people, back in the olden days, Doctor Who sets were kind of a joke and things like that, but the face on the back of the head looked terrible. It really looked bad. So I don't want to, I'm not going to extend this kind of little rant out. I just don't think there were some nice ideas in it. The mystery thing was kind of cool. The street idea is kind of cool. I think the street idea is nice because it also just a little bit kind of, what's the phrase? Makes a lot of the other aliens less kind of caricature-like. The fact that there was a Cyberman there and there's a Jadoon there. Often in Doctor Who, like all the Cybermen are exactly like this, and all of the Jadoon are exactly like that, and all of the whatever are exactly like this. And so having that street of little refugees, it kind of shows that there's a world outside of what just happens with the Doctor and his companions and the latest invasion or the plans of Davros. And so the street was nice because it just kind of showed that there are individuals that exist in these other societies that have stories of their own. And we don't need to know what the stories are. We don't need to have, the adventures of Cindy the Cyberman and things like that. But the street itself, I think, was a really nice idea. But it did look like Diagon Alley, and it did have a magic bird on it. And I was half expecting to see a magic wand and a dwarf walk past. So let's not dwell on the Ashilda, but I wouldn't be sad to never see her again. Let's just put it that way. But today and tonight was all about Clara, and in my opinion, of course, this is an opinionated review. I thought it was really well done, and I liked the cliffhanger for next week. I liked the fact that they didn't actually tell you who's stolen him, who's teleported him, who's going. It leaves things very, very open, and you've got a cliffhanger for the Doctor, and you've got time to kind of go. That's it for Clara. She's gone to be with Danny, if you want to put it in a kind of a cheesy eternal way, or just that her story has reached a natural conclusion otherwise. So it's been a very interesting series. Some things I've liked, some things I haven't. I'm sure you're feeling exactly the same, whatever your favorite episodes were. But this was definitely one that is very memorable. And will definitely lead on to interesting things next time. All right. Thank you very much for watching the review, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed the beginning of it, then it'll be up on YouTube soon. And if you're not yet following the channel, do hit the subscribe button or the follow button. And it'd be great to have you around here more often. For those of you watching on Twitch, I will definitely be around in a little bit for some more gaming. And for those of you on YouTube, don't forget to check out all my other cool little videos that you will find. Take care. You have been fantastic. And you know what? So was I. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye. Your life would be better with the adipose. You'll make you feel good. You'll make you feel right. Your life would be better with one thing I forgot to mention. Adipose. And, I often kind of do. One thing I forgot to mention, I think this is an interesting point, is the Doctor's fault. If the Doctor hadn't saved Ashilda, then Ashilda wouldn't have been there 2,000 years later to capture Clara. No, to capture him or to set the trap, and then Clara ended up dead. So you could, in theory, have a plotline in the future where the Doctor kind of goes, it's me, it was my fault. And remember, it was the Doctor breaking the rules that caused him to save Ashilda. Like it was one of the, you know how there was that little bit where he was like, I shouldn't do this, I should do this, I can do this. It was a big thing for him to kind of go, I'm gonna save this girl. And yet it's blown up massively in his face with the death of Clara, and I think that's going to be interesting. It might be one of those things they never address and they never look back at it, but you can join the dots as to why this is the Doctor's fault. And he could react to it in a few different ways. He could kind of go, compassion, looking out after the individual is wrong. He could react to it by kind of going, the rules are there for a reason. I must kind of follow them and things. But I do hope it's addressed at some point, because obviously it's not fun to see a kind of character kind of torturing themselves, but the Doctor is indirectly responsible for this. And it'll be interesting to see how he deals with that. There you go. Final thoughts are finally final. Goodbye.
Your life would be better with the adipose. He'll make you feel good. He'll make you feel right. Your life would be better with the adipose. So pull up a chair and start watching his shows. The other day you missed one. You know how it hurts. Well,
This is the wrong song. I'm sorry. I mean, I know it's important that we get this one right, but that's not the right song. This is the right song. Follow along, will you?
follow, 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 Addy TV. Subscribe, subscribe, follow, Addy TV. Thank you for watching the show. We hope you come back for another go. And if you wanna make sure you're the first to know. You gotta follow, just follow, Addy TV. You need to subscribe, and come and watch me.